So what's up, everybody? This is like the second episode for my One Piece vlog. I've started doing some One Piece discussions, and we have a special guest today, SOS. I've been talking about getting you on this thing for months, and so we finally made it
It's
happen.
been months.
I know, yeah. So I guess you can introduce yourself real quick.
So I'm SOS, a fellow anime YouTuber, and I'm just here with Nick to do a video that we've been talking about doing for literally months. It's been
Yeah, I
months in the
know.
making.
Yeah, ever since like pretty early on when you were streaming a lot, I was always like, I got to get you on the One Piece vlog, and then it's taken forever. But we're finally here, and today we're going to do some rankings. So we're going to rank each of the pre-time skip sagas out of the six, and then we're just going to kind of talk about our favorite arcs, all pre-time skip. Kind of just talking about. So currently, for me reading it, I'm in the Fishman Island arc. So I'm a little bit past the time skip. So we'll just keep all of this episode to pre-time skip stuff. And yeah, so we're just gonna kind of go through some rankings and then just kind of generally talk about what are our favorite arcs, sagas, moments, all pre-time skip basically.
Yeah.
And I guess I can lead it off. And I'm thinking let's go like I'll list my number six for the saga, and then if you have a ranking of the six of them, then you can go six, and we can just kind of go back and forth real quick.
Okay.
So I can lead it off. At number six, I had East Blue. East Blue is awesome. It like leads into everything that One Piece is, but I do feel like a lot of the arcs, once you kind of get past that, all of the sagas get a lot stronger from there. So I had East Blue at six.
When it comes to East Blue, so I'm just going through like looking at them, making sure I have all of them right. But when it
Yeah.
comes to East Blue is actually high up there for me.
Oh,
And
really?
I would put East Blue at number two.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a big difference.
For
Yeah.
me,
East
just
Blue.
go ahead.
Oh, it just like it does lay a lot of the groundwork for everything. And there are some like great moments with Arlong Park and I can't remember where is Sanji introduced, but I love that little
In the
the
Baratie.
island. Yeah, yeah, that's sweet. So there's a lot of great moments in East Blue for sure.
I just like it because I feel like in the beginning is where we're first like introduced to all the Straw Hats. All the Straw Hats get together. We have the Baratie, we have Arlong Park, we have Romance Dawn, we have Orange Town. So
Yeah.
get to know the first main crew, and it was like all smooth sailing from there until they get to the Grand Line. So the
Hmm.
East Blue arc was just perfect for introducing all of the cast, and especially the stuff where we saw Mihawk versus Zoro in the first fight. That
So
puts it
good.
for me.
I know. I love Mihawk so much.
So it's gonna have to stay like two. It's really up
All
there.
right. Fair enough. What would you have at six out of the sagas?
What would I have at six? Six, to be honest, for me would probably have to be. It's hard. It's really hard, but I'd have to say maybe Thriller Bark.
Fair enough. That's my number five.
Yeah, that's pretty time skip, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Okay.
So it goes. We can just go through. It goes East Blue, then Alabasta, then Sky Island, Water Seven, Thriller Bark, and then the Summit War,
Okay.
or the six big sagas. And so yeah, Thriller Bark's five for me, but you can talk about it for a little bit
Oh,
if you
what
want.
Thriller Bark? What I really did like Thriller Bark because it's where Brooke gets introduced and we see Moria. Oh my gosh, wait. Now thinking about it, we actually got Zoro and Kuma too, and we saw
Their moment,
Nightmare Luffy
yeah.
in Thriller Bark. So I might have to change Thriller Bark from actually being a sit. Ah, it's
It's hard
hard.
because they're all so good.
It,
You
it
know, it's
really
like it's
is.
like
It
the
really is.
bottom
And
of
we get
One
introduced to a
Piece.
straw hat there.
Yeah, and the bottom of One Piece I feel like is like better than most just like shown in anime almost, you know.
I really agree. And I know a lot of people who say like it's really hard for them to get through the first half of One Piece. And I never understand that with some
Yeah,
people.
me either. One of my favorite, which we'll talk about in a little bit, one of my favorite arcs, like individual arcs, comes really early on in the series. But yeah, Thriller Bark, I actually really like Moria. I know some people don't like Moria
Mr.
that much.
Onion.
I think he's funny. It's kind of like a meme. I think he should be the first figure I get for the setup. Should be Moria, just because he's just like he's like everyone's least favorite warlord. But I'm not Brooke is awesome, and I think it's a really funny arc too. It just doesn't have like the scale that some of the other arcs have, you know, like Alabasta and like Water 7 and some were like feel like these grand arcs, and
Yeah,
Thriller Bark kind of feels like a filler, like not a filler, but like in between these big moments. So that's why I would have it a little bit lower.
I think so. I'm gonna have to keep Thriller Bark at 6, but like
Yeah.
it's really hard. It's always hard ranking One Piece, especially when it comes down to fights, arcs, and stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you
Because
know, but my all-time favorite arc has always been like Sabai Odi Part 1 to Part 2, but that's for a totally different video.
fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a number 5? Because
My
I
number
think so.
5,
Mine goes East Blue, then Thriller Bark. What's your next one?
I'd say my number 5 would have to be. It's pretty hard, but I'd say Sky Island. Sky Island goes at my
Yeah.
number 5 spot. Just I really did like Sky Island, and I like the concept of Eneru, him thinking he's a god, and how there's like a sea above the sea, the white sea, and then it goes higher than that, the white sea, and we get introduced to a lot of characters there with the Skypians, and we get One Piece history and everything. And I think in the Sky Island arc, it's when we're introduced to Whitebeard,
Yeah, I think
and
right. Yeah, in the Jaya, which is the
yeah,
first beginning. Yeah, I think that is when he's introduced, and Blackbeard, I think as well. Either
Blackbeard and
Blackbeard.
Shanks.
Yeah, yeah. You
Well,
see
Shank
Shanks
goes on the
again.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, it's so hard because those moments were so amazing, especially with Luffy, the scene in the bar with Bellamy and all
Oh,
of
I
that.
know.
I would,
So good.
but I'm gonna have to put it. I'm gonna have to put it at 5 just because of like execution and how the arc went on. Like, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that I kind of feel like it got boring towards the end. Not really boring, but it kind of got predictable when Luffy was like rubber, and
Yeah.
we got Eneru who's lightning. Like, Eneru could have been so strong if someone else would have just went up there. If it was anyone else,
Yeah.
Eneru
It's
probably would.
true. No, he would have. I think there's a thing where Oda said like his bounty, if he was on like not in Sky Island, would be like 500 million berries.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
correct.
so he's like way. Oh God, I don't know if you heard that notification, but he's like way stronger than all of them at that point. But he just got lucky. But I have Sky Island a little bit higher, but I'll talk about that because it's a few
Mhm.
more. So that might be our two big differences is East Blue and Skypiea.
Yeah. So
Um,
I would just want to say one more thing about,
yeah,
how you said his bounty would be 500 million?
yeah,
One thing you have to understand about Oda saying that back then when Oda said his bounty would be 500 million, the highest bounty in the show we've heard of was 350 million at that
yeah.
point. So he would have been the strongest character
Oh
according to
yeah.
bounty at that point.
Oh,
Like,
easily. Yeah, he's so strong and like it's I also love his side stories if you read the manga. I don't know if it's in the anime of him like when he goes to the moon.
yeah,
That's at the beginning of each chapter is super funny too. I like Eneru.
the cover pages,
Yeah.
I forgot what they're called up there, but I think we're gonna see Enter again, definitely
Yeah,
in the anime and manga,
for sure.
100%. So what
Yeah,
do you
so
have at 5?
so I had Thriller Bark at 5.
Oh, okay.
And then at 4 I have Alabasta,
Hmm.
which might be a little low for Alabasta because it is kind of the first time where it is the first arc that the saga, like East Blue, it's just a bunch of like almost separate arcs, but Alabasta, it's like Baroque Works is a thread throughout it, and you're building to Crocodile for so long and through different arcs. So I really like that about it. I didn't like Crocodile. I thought Crocodile was okay when I first watched it, but then like when you see him later at Impel Down and everything, I like him more. So I might have to go back and reread it. Um, but just it didn't. I think it's awesome. I really like Crocodile, but why it's not like higher on the list, I just think some of the villains or storytelling get a little bit better, but it's still amazing. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of I have Alabasta at 4.
At 4, I
Yeah,
would say I would have to agree with you with Alabasta at 4. And did I already make a 4? No, I didn't make a 4.
yeah,
So Alabasta at number 4, just because of how Whiskey Peak, just because of Whiskey Peak. Like, I really
yeah,
like you said, just the build through and how everything in that arc just almost flawlessly went together. So
yeah.
I would really have to put Alabasta, and it's hard because Alabasta is tied between 4 and 3 for me.
Yeah.
But especially when Zoro went up against the bounty hunters in that arc,
Oh
and
yeah.
then Nico Robin was introduced, and then we all know the thing what happened with Pell. I don't know how Pell isn't dead, but
Yeah.
Pell's alive.
And
So
that's also when Chopper's introduced. Drum
true.
Island I really like as well.
I really love
Um,
Dr. Heerluck. One of his quotes that he has, I don't know the full quote, but towards the end of the quote, he says, "When does a man die? A man only dies when he's forgotten." And that's like my favorite One Piece quote.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Alabasta has a lot of great moments, and it is kind of when you realize that this story is going to be something that, like, you're going to have hundreds of chapters for just like one villain almost.
Yeah.
Like it's not just individual little arcs, but it really also starts to hint even more to the bigger world that we just are going to see. And I still feel like I barely have seen any of it where I'm at in Fishman Island.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
100% true. Just like
yeah,
right now, we got introduced to Blackbeard in
yeah,
Jaya. Back then, Blackbeard's development is still going on throughout the whole manga. Like, I
yeah.
like that what it does out with his characters.
Yeah, I agree. And so for three, I actually had Sky Island. And that might be because I actually have a different view than you on it because so Sky Island, because I've watched like One Piece multiple times when I was younger up until Sky Island. And every time I got there, I would always just like drop the series. And the same thing happened when in my One Piece vlogs, there's like a big break that I take. And it's because I'm at the beginning of Skypiea. But for some reason, when I finally got through it, I like really liked the ending of it.
Mhm.
And it maybe if I think on it a little bit later, it might go down this list a little bit because it does have kind of the thriller bark, like filler between a huge arc. Like it's kind of like Alabasta, Water 7, Summit War, the three big ones, and Skypiea and Thriller Bark are in between them. But it felt like, at least to me, that Skypiea took like a jump where it felt like Oda was like bringing like more bigger ideas into the story, because I think that arc I talked about in one of my videos that it feels like he's really exploring like how we should pursue knowledge almost and
Mhm.
things like that, and through Eneru and through everything that happened at Jaya, and how like the guy back in the back, the big backstory with what happened with Jaya, that they like, I can't remember the guy's name, but they kill
Nolan.
Nolan. Yeah, like his backstory. I think it all really works well together. And maybe I just didn't get that from the beginning of One Piece, and that's kind of why I put it at three. But I mean, I think I think that for me, two and one are above, like a little bit of a cut above three through six, but three through six are all really close. Um, but yeah, I just really like the ending of it, I guess.
It's really hard. Like, it's really hard to rank One Piece for me personally because
Yeah.
I feel like One Piece, with all the arcs and sagas that they do, are neck and neck. The
Oh
only
yeah.
the only problem I ever have with One Piece is with the filler, and even the filler into One Piece isn't that bad because the filler world builds and ties into the story somehow. So
Yeah.
it's extremely difficult to rank these sagas like this. But
Yeah, and like even the arc that's right after Water 7 at the beginning of, or right after Sky Island, the first little arc, the Long Island or whatever,
mhm.
like it's like a couple volumes or a volume or whatever. And that's like one of the most forgettable things, but it leads into Okaji showing up. And it's like even when there is a little lull in the plot, he immediately just shows up with a crazy character who just like walks up and it just like it changes everything right away. I feel
Yeah.
like that happens often. But yeah, what's your number three? I have a guess.
So
Should I make the guess?
yeah, let's see if you can get it.
My guess is that your number three is Water 7.
And that's exactly right. Mine is Water 7.
Let's
So,
go.
and your number 3, you want to go? Did you already
Yeah,
go
my
with
number
your number
three
3?
is Sky Island.
Oh, okay. So Sky Island. Okay. So
My
Water
three.
7 is my number 3. Is one, everyone talks about the moment of Robin saying, "I want to live," and like the last arc,
Yeah.
Ennie's lobby, which, don't get me wrong, Ennie's lobby is by far, like in my top 5 for favorite One Piece arcs. I just have to put it just a little lower than the East Blue, because the East Blue is like nostalgic for me. Like it
Yeah.
gives me the feeling of this is One Piece. This is what got us into One Piece. This is where we're introduced. But Water 7 also gave me that, because we have Frankie and we have the backstory of Tom, and we figure out this is where they get like, wait, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let myself. But this is where Usopp fights Luffy. This is where they get the
Yeah.
Sunny. This is like a turning point kind of for the series. And that's one of the reasons why this is my favorite arc. I just feel like it kind of was a middle point to tie in the whole story. Like if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely get that about Water 7. I guess that's also my number 2. So I had it like
Mhm.
one spot higher.
Yeah.
But the reason I think it's actually really close to being just like one of the greatest arcs I've ever seen, or the
Hmm.
entire saga. It has a couple of moments I really like, because it's split up into the Long Island, Water 7, and then Ennis Lobby are the 3 arcs that make up the Water 7 saga.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of got some shit for this, but I talked about in when I reviewed it that I actually was kind of underwhelmed. The one thing I was underwhelmed by was actually Rob Lucci,
Mm.
um, which is because I feel like for years I've heard the legend of Rob Lucci, and like
Yeah.
I've heard everyone talk about that fight, and I understand that he's like this embodiment of like the justice in the world, the government, just like a ruthless person in the government. But I
Hmm.
feel like everything that he accomplished was just accomplished better in the Summit War arc with I never remember his name, but the guy who kills Ace. What's his
Um,
name?
Blackbeard.
The no, the magma guy. One of
Oh,
the admirals.
Akainu.
Yeah,
Akainu.
I feel like he is just like a better version of Rob Lucci down the line. Like they feel
Hmm.
kind of similar, and like they're both like ruthless, and they're like the Navy is justice.
Like Supreme
Um,
Justice.
yeah, and I feel like he was had less screen time and he accomplished it quicker. And Rob
Mm-hmm.
Lucci's not bad by any means. He also has his designs super cool. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
suave guy with the little bird and stuff. Like
Yeah.
he's designed super cool. I just like for him being the villain of like a super long saga, and he's the feels like he's the main villain. I kind of wanted more from him. But other
Mhm.
than that, I think Water Seven's pretty flawless.
What'd you say with that? One thing about the Rob Lucci fight, I get the same thing with you. I watch the fight sometimes. Like I go back and watch the One Piece fights. I think that fight kind of was over underwhelming. What I
Yeah,
like more than that fight actually is the escape from Water Seven. I I think the escape from Ennie's lobby was actually better than the Rob
yeah,
Lucci versus Luffy fight.
yeah.
And I
I agree.
really like how Cypher Pole was introduced. I like the concept of Cypher Pole, and I really liked how it was like these assassins, and they were putting years and years into this mission just for Luffy and the gang to come by and just ruin it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, and I would want to see more of Rob Lucci because I know he comes back because I bought
Mhm.
there's kind of a shine on it, but that's like volume 90 and he's on the cover of it.
Yeah.
He's like one of the
Mhm.
characters. So it's like motivation for me to like finish getting up to it because I'm like in the 60s or whatever.
Mhm.
But I want to see more of Lucci, and I just like wanted a little bit more from him during that arc. But
Mhm.
that's kind of I mean it like a little bit at the beginning I guess of Water 7. It can get a little slow at times, but yeah, overall I think Water 7 is pretty awesome,
Yeah, Water 7 is really solid.
especially
So
Usopp versus
since
Luffy.
oh yeah, see, I did talk about that, but like
Yeah,
that fight right there,
so
the fight
good.
was a really good fight.
And
So I
real quick,
guess
here you go.
oh no, go ahead. Because I
I
was
was just
about
gonna
to just take
say
a turn.
Oh, I was just gonna say also at the beginning, I feel like at the beginning of a lot of sagas like Alabasta, Skypiea, it kind of took a while to get into like the emotion of the place because like they go to this new place, they're meeting like random people. But Water 7, like right when they get there, they just hit you with the Usopp Luffy fight. And it's
Mhm.
like a moment like that usually happens at the end of an arc. So having it
Yeah.
at the beginning and then like the Robin moment later on just was awesome.
Oh, and
But
I also like how Frankie actually started off as a villain. Like
yeah,
one of the things I was just watching the other day is when Luffy, Zoro, and Chopper actually went to go fight the Frankie family. And
yeah.
watching scenes like that just so nostalgic.
Oh, yeah, it's also weird for me because like when I think of the crew, and just like you mentioned earlier with East Blue, because I had watched it, like I watched the Four Kids growing up, Four
Mhm.
Kids dub, and and I'd only gotten to Skypiea, so I like when I think of the crew, I really think of the original five
Mhm.
members. Like that's synonymous with me. And so when I got to Water 7, I was like, am I gonna like Frankie? And then immediately I'm like, of course, Frankie's
Yeah,
awesome. But yeah,
especially. So what I was gonna say is, it seems like we both have the same number one, the number
I
one
think
spot right
so.
there.
Yeah, because two for you is so my two is Water 7, yours is East Blue.
Yeah,
So yeah, Summit War for me is number one.
Summit War definitely. So you can go into why you like Summit War.
Yeah, so I mean, I've known that Ace died for a long time, and it's still like I knew it was coming. I knew that he got a. I didn't know who the guy was that killed him, but I knew he got a fist through the chest. But yeah, I think like what's the name of the first arc that I think you mentioned it? Like, is it like Say Body or I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Uh, Sabayoti.
Yeah, the
Yes.
when they get teleported by Kuma.
Hmm.
Like that is incredible. That's one of the best moments. I just made a video on it too about that moment. That moment is feels, if you've seen Hunter x Hunter, feels a lot like when Pedo first shows up.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. And then Impel Down is also just one of my favorite arcs. And then obviously the war. I think it's just a great, like, it builds off of everything we've seen so far in One Piece. And
Mhm.
even though the crew isn't there, and I love the crew so much, but it still has such strong storytelling outside of that, with just Luffy and not having to have all of the other crew members. Yeah, I just think it's like literally one of the flawless. Like I put it up there as like greatest like arcs of all time with like the Chimera Ant arc, and like
Oh
I just
yeah.
think it's one of the war. It was satisfying. It hit every like storytelling beat I could ever possibly want while
Hmm.
building up the world. And I never thought we would get a moment like that with Luffy where he's just so broken. You
Hmm.
know, even though I knew Ace died, like I didn't realize how low he would feel because it's also like he couldn't save his crew, and then he also couldn't save his brother, and he's just doesn't know what to do. In the panel of him being like, "I'm so weak," is just yeah. I think that is it's just I think Oda's gotten overall stronger as he's been creating the series. Not to say he wasn't strong at the beginning, and I think it all accumulates in the Summit War.
No, yeah. Just talking about it, like literally giving me goosebumps because I'm just thinking back and I'm thinking about how one of my favorite moments, Shanks, when he came to stop the war, how
Oh my
we got
god.
introduced to all the warlords, like all the warlords were at the fight.
Yeah.
Amazon Lily, what happened there? How we got what is it? Whitebeard, all of Whitebeard's commanders. How everyone just went to go save Ace. But the one thing that will always hit home for me in that arc is Sabai Odi. Like Sabai Odi, I always talk about this. Everyone I ever show One Piece, I show them the Sabai Odi arc just because there we had Luffy with the Celestial Dragon, we had the auction house, we had all that stuff in Sabayoti, we had Rayleigh in Sabayoti. Sabayoti was just a
Uh,
perfect arc.
I agree with you. Like it is perfect for where it comes in the narrative too, because like I think at the end of Water 7, it feels like like how they're talking. It's like okay, the time skip almost feels like it could happen now, and then you get Thriller Bark, and then all of a sudden it's like where's the story going, and then shit just hits the fan real quick when they meet all the rookies, and then he punches the Celestial Dragon, and then also hints to what's going to be explored in Fishman Island, and like the hierarchy of the world and the racism of the world is explored even more. Um, yeah, and then I just never thought. I also, because I've known that the war was going to happen, I never thought that the crew got separated. Like I never knew that, so that blew my mind.
Oh,
And
right. And
Boa's introduced, and yeah, oh,
when they had
awesome.
like this music going when the crew is just getting vanished. And I also forgot Impel Down was in that saga too.
Yeah,
And
and Impel
Impel
Down's
Down,
incredible.
an amazing arc through and through. Like we got Magellan, we got to see Crocodile again. Impel, I feel like Marineford just that saga had so much packed into it. Like I would say now looking back on it, I would have to say that Marineford is probably like up there in all of One Piece has to be top 3 for me, and it's
Yeah.
not at 3. So I'm like tied between 2 arcs of One Piece, like, but those are after the time skip.
Hmm.
But we just got so much, and especially how we actually realized what Blackbeard's motives were, kind of just a little bit. We don't know what he's
Yeah.
really after. But
Yeah.
we did
Like,
get Blackbeard.
yeah, when Blackbeard, because I remember when he became a warlord, I was like, okay, that's like cool. Like I know he's gonna be like a villain, but the warlords are all super cool. And when it's true when you first see them all together and you see like I love the difference in size. Like Kuma and Moria are huge, and then like Flamingos is super long, and then Mihawk and Boa seem like they're short. Like they seem super short next to him. And
Mhm.
but I was like, what is he doing at Impel Down? Like when you're reading the arc, you're like, what is he? Why is he showing up here? And then you
Yeah.
realize his plan, and then that he can steal a devil fruit, and it's like,
Mhm.
how is that even possible? Even
Yeah.
though it was kind of hinted at, I guess, earlier when he talks with Ace, and that he can take the devil fruit power because he says
Mhm.
something like, "I needed the what's his the darkness one? What's do you know the name of that fruit?"
I think it's called the. I forgot the name of it. Like it's
Yeah,
right there.
but when he's like, "Oh, this other crew member took it, and I need to get it from him," and I remember being like, "Did that the other crew member eat it, and he had like stole it from him?" Because that's probably what
Oh,
happened.
so he didn't eat it.
Oh, he didn't.
Thatch was about to eat it, and he stabbed him right in the back.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
but everything with Blackbeard and yeah, like you said, there's so much packed in, and it feels like the pace of One Piece, especially at the beginning, is moving at like if you had to say out of 10, it's moving at like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. Like it's not moving that fast. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, right when Kuma sends everyone everywhere and Luffy hears that Ace is going to be executed, you get like this ticking like it's like okay, there's a bomb that's about to go off, and the pace
Yeah.
just feels so fast for Impel Down, and also Buggy when he's reintroduced is amazing.
Because they're
Uh,
literally running through all of Impel Down.
yeah, yeah, Impel Down and the design of Impel Down is super cool, and how he just like Luffy just destroys the 3 strongholds of like
Mhm.
he destroys Ennis Lobby, then Impel Down, and then Marineford and everything. Yeah, I
Just
think
trampling
it's
over
the
the
best.
government.
Yeah, I love it. And also getting to see the Navy and the strength of the Navy even
Mhm.
more, getting to learn more about hockey, which I'm excited to learn more about because I still feel like I have a lot to learn when it comes on the hockey
You do.
front. Yeah. But yeah, learning more about that. It's just like everything because they've been building to this since like Alabasta and like introducing Blackbeard really like I think it's end of Alabasta, beginning of Sky Island is when Blackbeard's introduced
Mhm.
and seeing Shanks talk about it. And yeah, there's just moment after moment that's iconic in
Yeah,
that
that's
arc, in the saga, I guess. Yeah, I think it's the best by I mean, I think it's like one of the best things I've ever seen or read, to be honest.
to be honest, I it's really up there. Like you said earlier, the only thing I can compare to that really gave me feelings like that is Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah,
Like the
you know,
Chimera
true.
Ant arc.
It feels a lot like the Chimera Ant arc with um, how outmatched Luffy and the crew is, just like how outmatched Gon and everyone else feels. But I guess we probably shouldn't talk too much Hunter x Hunter because
Yeah.
that's pretty deep into the Hunter x Hunter story.
That is like
Um,
final
that's
arc.
yeah, yeah. But it watch Hunter x Hunter if you haven't watched it. Seriously.
100%.
Um, yeah, so I guess we can also talk about so those are our rankings for it. I guess just to recap, I went East Blue at 6, Thriller Bark at 5, Alabasta at 4, Sky Island at 3, Water 7 2, and then Summit War at 1.
And I think my rankings were Summit War at 1, East Blue, Water 7. Was
It
after
was
Water 7?
Alabasta, I think.
Oh yeah, Alabasta at 4, and then it goes Sky Island, then Thriller Bark.
Yeah. So I think I think we agree though for the most part.
Yeah,
Like
even though
the
it's
biggest
really hard.
difference is yeah, the biggest difference is East Blue, but I think like I understand why it would
Mhm.
be that high for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess we can just talk real quick about some arcs and our favorite individual arcs throughout the original. I know there's a ton of them. So I have some written down. My favorite is my two favorites are Marineford and Impel Down. which makes sense why the sum or would be so high for me. But we kind of talked about that, and like Impel Down's just so different too from everything that we had seen in One Piece. Just like uh, you're just getting introduced to all these characters that you've met in the past in a completely different circumstance. Like I would have never thought that Crocodile and Luffy would work on the same side,
Oh, 100%. I could never see that coming.
Yeah, and that's like just one of the biggest appeals of One Piece is that you can see characters in just drastically different situations. It's another reason why I like ranked my top 10 and like, but like why Thriller Bark is also really good. I had that around like 7, the specific arc of it, which is basically the entire saga, but is because like it's like this horror comedy scenario that all the characters are in, which is like so unique that Oda can put them in such different circumstances and it still feels the same, and it just puts them in unique situations. Yeah, well, do you have I'm guessing you said Marineford's up there.
But Sabaody, like individually,
Sabaody.
For me, I would have to say arcs that Sabaody, Jaya, and Enies Lobby. Those would have to be top 3 in that order right there for me off the bat. Because I'm just remembering things about Jaya. Like when we first introduced to Blackbeard, I liked that so much. And how right before we were introduced to Blackbeard, Shanks told Whitebeard, yo, Blackbeard gave me this scar. And Shanks told Whitebeard, I wasn't being reckless when he gave me that scar. And for Shanks to say he wasn't being reckless and this dude gave him that scar, it just shows how strong Blackbeard is going to be. And then how Luffy fought Bellamy and just that whole arc, Jaya, I loved it so much. And then Enies Lobby, I really, really liked Enies Lobby. And then after Enies Lobby has to come Impel Down for me too. So those are 4 that I actually really like.
Yeah. So for me, I had like Marineford, Impel Down, Enies Lobby at 3. For me, I think I also like the beginning of it, because I think the beginning of Enies Lobby is when they're on the train going to Enies Lobby.
Well, I think that's post Enies Lobby.
No, I think when they're first going, because they go on like when when they have Frankie and Robin kidnapped and Sanji's on the train. I think that's the beginning of it.
Oh, I said post. I didn't mean to say post Enies Lobby because post is after. So that's the Enies Lobby.
It's either I think it's the beginning of Enies Lobby. It might be the end of Water 7, but that moment's really cool too. Yeah, so Enies Lobby's awesome. But for number 4, I actually had Arlong Park.
Arlong Park. Oh, Arlong Park was actually really good.
Yeah, Arlong Park, it's just, and obviously where I'm at and how it builds on Arlong's character, like hundreds and hundreds of chapters later is insane. But yeah, Arlong's Park is the first, like anytime you read or watch the moment where Luffy puts his hat on Nami, like that's one of the most iconic moments in the series, and it happens so early on. Yeah. And so I think that arc is really where I think when you're watching the beginning of One Piece, it's like, okay, this is good. I enjoy this. But for me, at least, when I got to Arlong Park, it was like, this feels like this is something different than everything else I watch. And then as you go down, that kind of just like confirms it for sure. Yeah. And then Skypiea is high up there. Sabaody is also pretty high up there. I also really like Drum Island. For sure. I just like the introduction of Chopper and stuff. But do you have any other arcs that stand out to you? Or even just moments that like you really enjoy from pre-timeskip?
Oh, moments that really stood out for me. Like, I think this is a really underrated moment, and I think I mentioned this before, but one moment was when they were escaping Enies Lobby. And you had Luffy sitting there, like didn't the Mary just pop out of nowhere?
Yeah.
At that point, the Mary just pops out of nowhere, and you have Luffy saying like, "Let's go back," and just them fighting off these hundreds of Marines and what was it, 7 battleships, and then Robin like reliving the Buster Call. But one thing I always say about that, why would the government Buster Call one of their own islands?
I think it's just, it is kind of a weird thing where it's like, even though they sent it in, it's like, that month, like you would think they would be like, well, let's like confirm this, but I guess it's just such a like an order that like they know if you give it, you mean it, even though
Hmm.
he didn't mean it.
Spawned them.
But yeah, like I wonder if that's ever happened in the history of One Piece, if someone else just like accidentally called a Buster Call in a super peaceful village or something like that. Probably. I mean, the world government's pretty corrupt in One Piece.
Oh, it is. You're going to find out a lot more about that going into the future. But
Yeah.
I think that island, that, what's it called? That arc right there, or the ending of that arc, really like made it for me. Especially Zoro gets his sword rotten, and then it's just like they're not. I didn't feel like they were going to get out of it. I thought all the
Yeah.
Straw Hats were going to be captured at that time, and like we're going to have some type of escape arc. So
Yeah, and right, also I think it is like there's the Ennis lobby and then is there like the post Ennis lobby like little arc where they where you meet Garp for the first time and
mm-hmm.
you meet Kobe comes back and everything with him in the future, like when he like is starting to develop hockey or whatever and
Yeah.
Luffy punches him, that yeah, all just I just keep thinking about Marineford and how good Marineford is. But yeah, I think Water Seven and the Summit War were kind of the two biggest ones for me. They're probably two of my favorite arcs ever. But like even like Thriller Bark is still so enjoyable and so awesome, you know?
Mm-hmm. Trust me, you
Yeah,
have a long way to go with One Piece. Like you have a long way to go. And one thing I always tell people who are getting into One Piece, it only gets better. One Piece
yeah.
literally only gets better. And it's only going to get better.
Yeah, and I think that's like something I think about is like you can tell that Oda is improving his storytelling. You
Hmm.
know, like even though he there's a lot of great things in the beginning, at least for me so far, like even if I like an arc more than a later, like an earlier one more than later, I can feel that he's getting better and he's like experimenting with new ideas and things like that. And I think you can really see it in Fishman Island where I'm at right now. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on, I think Summit War is kind of like the peak. Obviously, it's the ending, but I think it is like just everything that it has been building to for like 400 or 500 chapters or episodes, and really just pays off there. And yeah, and like the introduction of Marco as well, I'm so excited to see what
Oh,
he does
true.
next. And that
Oh,
arc.
one thing that,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
you go, no, you
Okay,
got it.
one thing that Oda did say, we're talking about the Summit War, and this just gets me excited for One Piece going into the future. Oda said in an interview, if you guys think that Summit War was a good arc, just wait till what I have planned for when they find the One Piece. He said when they find the One Piece, the future war arc, or maybe it's in Wano, which we're in now. He
Yeah,
said the
I think I
next,
heard something like this.
it's going to make Marineford look like a kid fight on a playground. So like I just can't wait to see. I think it might be in Wano because we're getting into a war in Wano. No spoilers though.
Yeah, yeah, and it also feels like because there's a few reasons that the Summit War is so good is because it brings back all these characters we've seen and beaten. And like instead of a series that might kill off its characters, it keeps them there. But that also makes Ace's death 1,000 times worse because he's like the first real character that's died, you know?
Yeah,
Like, so because death doesn't really happen that often in One Piece. So when it does, it's like it's a big deal.
it's
But then it
very
also means that like if there's a huge war, you could have there's dozens and dozens of characters that they've met before and that could somehow end up there, like someone like Eneru,
mm-hmm.
uh for Sky Island, like he could just show back up and be involved in this huge war with everyone like around a similar location.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Summit War is awesome, and I think it shows, so it has that like payoff from the long-term storytelling, but it's also like really funny too. Like even though it's super emotional at times, like everything with
Mm-hmm.
Buggy is hilarious. And like
Oh yeah.
when he like gets the nosebleed when he's on the thing and he like turns and he's like, hey, he's like, Buggy here. And then he's like, oh no, I had a nosebleed, and doesn't. Everyone's like, you didn't cut that. We saw it. We saw both takes. Yeah, I just think everything that I love about One Piece is in that arc, even
Mhm.
though the one thing it's missing is the straw, like the rest of the straw hats that I love.
Right. And I think it's good because Oda showed that he can still make the story good and hit all the spots without the main cast being there. Even though
Yeah.
Luffy was there, but you know what I'm saying, without all
Yeah.
the rest of the Straw Hats, it still hit every single beat perfectly.
Yeah, and it's so important for Luffy's character, I think, for him to finally, because he is like I like how in when he fights Rob Lucci, he just introduces Gear 2 and 3, and they just don't say anything about it. Like one day
Hmm.
he's just like, yeah, I can do that. But he just constantly wins for crazier and crazier reasons,
Yeah.
leading up to when he beats Moria, and he goes. It's like he only wins because they put like 1,000 shadows into him, and
Hmm.
it's like for the seeing him lose for the first time after like really see him really lose after hundreds of chapters was just super satisfying. I think important for everything that's going to come in the future.
Hmm.
But
And not
yeah,
only did it give him character development, it also gave the other Straw Hats character development and motivation to get stronger because they all saw on the
yeah,
paper, Luffy's probably distraught. We have to start training.
yeah,
It's
yeah. It forces them to kind of, because they all have their own like they have their histories, motivations, but they still haven't like defined themselves outside of the crew once they've entered it, and like as much, and it gives them this opportunity to really define like what else they want and be able to get there on their own, like that makes them have to live up to now the name of the Straw Hats.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah, it's so awesome.
it is.
Yeah. Well, do you have any more thoughts on pre time skip?
I think well, me personally, I think I've covered almost all the bases. I know like I'm gonna be watching this video later on and say, I forgot that. I forgot
Yeah.
that moment, but
Fair enough.
there's so
Yeah,
much in my face.
yeah, I think it's the same for me. Maybe we'll have to come back and do it when I catch up, and then we can make a list of the time skip ones and see which arcs actually. Because I'm curious to see what your other arcs with like against Marineford and everything. Like what's the other saga that's up there? Because I kind of know what they are, so I'm like trying to think. So I'm excited to find that out when I catch up to it.
Oh, 100%. You guys could expect at least, I'm saying at least 3 more One Piece videos from us.
Hell yeah, I'm so down. All right. Well, so there's a new One Piece vlog every Thursday. There'll be more One Piece discussions like this. So make sure you subscribe to SOS. He's awesome. And hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one.